We say a very good afternoon to Graham Stuart, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness, a man who always has an opinion. Good afternoon, Mr. Stuart. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jeremy. It's lovely to see you.
Back from your long recess. You had about 11 years off, didn't you? All those MPs, time off. Enjoyed your holiday?
If not longer, but we were also there for our conference, which was, was good fun, actually. And Kemi Badenoch nailed it with her speech. So, actually, the opinion polls haven't yet gone the way we'd like them to. But I think the direction of travel, doing the work, and especially, the issue you and I have talked about often is why did the Conservatives fail for so long on the immigration issue? And she said she was under a lot of pressure to come up with a kind of knee-jerk response. She held it off. We weren't all sure she was getting it right.
Do you still think that was the right approach? We'll argue about this till the cows come home. You'll say to me that what she did was spend 15 months getting together coherent policy, not a knee-jerk reaction. I would respectfully suggest I accept that to a degree, but if I'd been Kemi Badenoch, I'd have come out when I was elected and said, I believe in lower taxation, protecting our children, securing our borders, funding our police, making sure the health service works for the people it's paid for to work for, and I'm going to go away and I'm going to come up with plans. But I have to tell you, Graham, and I'm not being deliberately argumentative, because there was 15 months of peace and quiet, it would be a justifiable criticism to say that that void was filled by Reform, who've made so much noise that mega poll the other day says your party, I don't mean to be rude, you're losing, you see, your party's finished if you went to the polls today.
Yeah, well, we're not going to the polls today, Jeremy, and the British people, when it comes to a general election, they're looking for people who have got answers because they're angry, they're cross, just as you've said now, from the grooming gangs to the issues of immigration, and having failed to deliver the promises that we made on immigration. As you rightly said, you were tearing into me and others on your programme, quite rightly. And one of the reasons why you didn't vote Conservative is we had to come up and be able to say credibly, point by point, a coherent approach. So I know you can say that's trite, but actually I think I didn't know whether it would work. I mean, you could, as you say, just be bolder, but
yep.
Kemi Badenoch pretty much did say those things you said, but no one was interested because they were too busy going, well, you let us down on that. Now, this, 188-page report, step by step, and it's landed pretty well because we've got, otherwise, the thing that's thrown in our face time and again, well, 14 years, well, as you and I have discussed, 14 years in which actually we turned the economy around. We got 4 million more people into work. A lot of good things, but we didn't get it all right.
No, I accept that. But do you not think it is dangerous, bearing in mind where we're at? I think we're at a crossroads politically in this country. I genuinely believe that. I think it's dangerous, and I know it's probably just language, if you and your colleagues still refer to what's happening as people are just angry. I think if you said that to the millions of people who will tell you that they're going to vote Reform, even if they're led in the opposite direction by the hand, because they don't trust what has come before. Not just the Labour Party, the Tory Party, this uniparty, we're in, they're in, we're in, they're in. And I never thought, I mean, I've been really honest in my lifetime, that I would see the possible demise under the two-party system of one of those parties, maybe both, and a party coming from nowhere. But I do think, Graham, with respect, it's dangerous to just label Reform as people are angry. I think there's far more to it, my friend.
Well, I mean, people are angry and they reflect the views you've just made there. And I've got my constituents. I only won by the narrowest margin. I've got a hard job to persuade them to vote for me next time. And as you say, if there was an election tomorrow morning, then it would be a miracle if I won my seat. So, I'm not exactly blasé about it. But it is fair to say that people feel disappointed.
Yeah.
But in order to address that, when you actually get to a general election, as opposed to just how do you feel, and right now I feel like Conservatives let us down in too many ways and Labour have been absolutely disastrous.
Yeah.
That's where the public's at. But when it comes to the actual election, you're suddenly forced to go, well, it's not enough to say that the Tories and Labour have let us down in the past, as far as I'm concerned. I need to know who's going to make things better. And that's why it is important to have policies, to have plans, and so far, I mean, that we have no divine right to exist. The Conservative Party could cease to exist. The British people would carry on perfectly happily without us, and the most successful party in political history in the whole Western world would just die. That could happen, but the way for it not to happen, I think, is for us to do a lot of hard work, be able to answer in detail, because when you get to the general election, people will suddenly go from just wanting a change.
I get that, and to be fair,
deliver. And I think Kemi has the kind of personality. She gave a brilliant speech. She held off on coming up with easy answers, leave the ECHR. Well, I'm minded to, but I'm not going to come forward until I've sorted it out. And she came forward and she sorted it out, and they looked at it and got the top QC and all the rest of it. So all the legal people, you didn't want all of them saying, oh, this is just knee-jerk, opportunistic nonsense. Actually, the proper people working it out, and they saying, yeah, actually, we do need to leave, and here's a number of steps.
Do you genuinely think
ministers couldn't do what they wanted to do? Priti Patel wanted to reduce immigration. Theresa May wanted to. Suella Braverman wanted to.
Theresa May, don't start me. She's the reason we haven't got a police force. Come on, let's be honest.
Well, that's a different topic, but she was committed to reducing immigration to tens of thousands, and we were unable to do it with Keir Starmer and his legal mates at every step of the way.
No, listen, you won't find me supporting this government. Let's move it, because listen, you know what I think of you as a person, and I've been very honest. You have a hell of a job on your hands as individuals and as politicians and as a party, but my respect to you, Graham, will forever be because you come on and you fight your corner. Somebody said something the other day, I don't know, actually it was Ian Duncan Smith, and he said, we are now fighting to be heard. We're not in the ring. We're fighting to be heard. Yeah. And through sensible policies and decisions that aren't knee-jerk, I hope we get there. But very much like you, he was honest enough to say we are suffering from the effects of 14 prime ministers in 3 weeks and a lot of failed promises. And that's, those are the optics. Can I just pick up a couple of things? I mean, I've told you before that one of the reasons I stopped voting Tory was that the highest tax rates in 70 years. Looks like the liars who are currently our government, who went... do you remember that? Watch my lips, no tax rises. Oh, council tax. Oh, anyway. Rachel Thieves, as I now call her, she's freely admitted that anybody who's achieved anything, she calls everybody rich who's ever achieved anything or got any savings or built a business or been promoted at work, are going to be absolutely screwed. And she makes this thing, which I don't understand, to pay for working people. But I speak to working people the whole time, and they do not associate themselves with this government at all. They say this government is not interested in working people. That's why they also seem to be obsessed with reform, because reform is talking on a level to these people, Graham.
Yeah, well, Labour removed hospitality rates relief. They hiked the jobs tax. They're pushing up the price of energy through the roof by just coming up with a ludicrous 2030 clean power target. And Rachel Reeves then expresses surprise that the high street's dying. That's why the Conservatives have committed to abolish business rates for shops and pubs on the high streets, and have also committed to changes that will reduce the cost of power, because electricity is among the most expensive in the world. And if you fully buy into the need for net zero, well, there's two things I'd say to you.
Do you buy into that? Do you buy?
Well, I think the world needs to tackle the risks of climate change, so I do. So I'm still there. But you don't do it by bankrupting yourself, by having electricity prices which are so high you get deindustrialization.
But that to me sounds, and I'm being straight because I love having chats like this with you. That sounds to me like you're trying to please all the people. Here's the reality: we cannot afford the interest on our debts right now. They used to tell us in the 80s the world was over. It is utter madness to spend billions of pounds on something. Mike Graham, right, said once something that will never leave me. So he said, well, what happens if you get to net zero then? Would you get a medal, or what happens next? The main producers of carbon, all those people, right, the bigger countries, China, right, they're not interested. And yet we're on this ideological path that will further bankrupt a country that cannot afford its interest on its debts. It is absolutely ludicrous. And when I look at, just from a political point of view, when I look at that, net zero, and then I look at, what we're spending allowing people to come into this country and destroy our social services so that our own people don't, I'm just like that. And then I think, hold on a second, I could absolutely sort the financial issues of this country in one day by drilling in the North Sea. Oh, we can't do that because that'll upset the friends of the earth. Doesn't make any sense, Graham. None whatsoever.
Well, that's why when I was, I agree with you. The point being, though, I think, action on climate change, as most British people believe.
I don't believe that, by the way. You're doing it again. I don't believe. I think that is a lie, by the way. That's the thing Miliband says.
Me every time I say something.
No.
To stop you giving an entirely monologue.
No. But I want you to take that. I want to say this to you, right? I heard Ed Miliband say that. The majority of British people care about climate change. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that's rubbish.
Well, all the polling that I've seen, Jeremy, suggests they do. Now, how much? The point, just go back, because I think we've got a point of agreement here. That is, if you bankrupt yourself doing it, if you give yourself sky-high electricity prices and industry moves abroad and you just import the stuff in, if you stop licensing in the North Sea, even while you have to burn fossil fuels, and you don't produce a drop less, not one drop less, by not producing your own, you just import it from others. I mean, it's just crazy. And we have to, I believe there's a genuine risk. I trust the scientific consensus, though I don't believe, there's no divine truth. We've got to listen to it. Action on climate and action on the environment is important, but it's got to be affordable. And sky-high electricity price. I used to do the job. And I'll tell you what, when it was on my radar to how do we get to net zero, guess what the things that were flashing? And it wasn't electricity. We were kind of moving with that, but it's difficult to get the system to balance at an affordable price. So that was a big issue. But you look at heat. I mean, the big energy use is heat. I mean, all our buildings around the country. And you look at transport. You look at these other areas. What they need, and industry, is they need electrification. Yeah. So you actually need to get all these from every home, every building, every factory, every vehicle to move to a new system, and mostly electricity based. And you want them to do it when you, if you're Ed Miliband, like a crazed maniac, have created the highest priced electricity in the world. Well, I mean, even if your only interest was climate change and net zero, making the most expensive electricity in the world and making it worse, and I don't know if you saw yesterday, frightening. Yesterday, there was evidence at the Energy and Net Zero Committee, Select Committee, and the experts, and they said no matter what you do, even if the gas costs nothing in a few years' time. Do you know what they said?
No.
Everyone's electricity prices are going to be another 20% higher.
Doesn't make any sense. You nailed it then. We're in complete agreement. I'm going to change to renewables. Why are you doing that? Well, it's morally good for the climate. Right, but the way that you're doing it, this is me in layman's terms, isn't going to create enough. So what are you going to do then? Well, we'll import it, but that'll be more expensive. Yes, but I mean, this is just a problem for now. 80 billion, 800 billion, trillions of pounds later, nobody's got anything. I see the net zero argument a bit like I see the political landscape right now. I think, and I finished with this, Graham, I love having you on. I think, I keep saying it every day, I make no apology for this, I think the silent majority have woken up. I think the people for years who prepared, oh yeah, tax rise, whatever, oh yeah, energy prices, whatever, food's gone up, are suddenly looking at where they believe their money is going. And of course, a lot of people will focus on immigration, but they'll look at net zero, they'll look at the stupid things that are happening and they'll go, I'm not doing this anymore. I've never asked for anything. I've never broken the law. I've just tried to be a really good citizen and I feel you're beginning to make me look like a mug. That's as basic as I can put it. That's what I think the political argument is right now.
At the base of our society, of an economy, is energy. It's the underpinning of everything. And if it's outrageously expensive, then it actually undermines, it means that consumers are pushed into poverty, it means our industries leave, it means we're poorer, and who on earth is going to copy a country that impoverishes itself because it's got a maniac like Ed Miliband in charge? No one's going to follow us, in which case, even if we did, as you said, what happens if the UK moved to zero emissions, the rest of the world would carry on sticking it out, we'd have done no one any favours and we'd have made ourselves poor. That's why Kemi Badenoch at the conference came out and said that we will, when we next get into government, we will revoke the Climate Change Act, and we're looking to get a sensible system that balances the desire to reduce. I mean, nobody wants filthy air, nobody wants to poison the earth even they help it, but we've got to do it in a way which makes us economically stronger, not weaker. We've got to be able to go back to people who are struggling and say this is actually genuine. It's not going to be rhetoric. Because Ed Miliband will tell you every time he comes up, he's like a preacher, isn't he, in the pulpit, as he tells you, oh no, renewables is cheaper. And you go, well, how is it then?
Well, it's not cheaper, is it?
That we've now got, having increased our renewables by so much, that we've now got the most expensive electricity in the whole damned world.
You know what you've done this afternoon? You've created a little feature, because Mike has a feature on breakfast where he has John Rentoul on because they disagree with everything. We're going to do this regularly. I love having you on, mate, and I respect you. I don't have to agree with him, but I love the passion with which you do your job. Graham Stuart, Conservative for Beverley and Holderness on Talk Drive.